Well, hey everybody. Just want to show you the new current banjo build that I'm doing. This is one that I'm putting together for a guy up in New York City, and he is mostly like a jug band, blues kind of artist. Does a lot of original jug band kind of stuff and the traditional stuff too. He's actually a member of a great band called the Brotherhood of the Jug Band Blues. You ought to look them up. They're really cool, and one of the country's premier jug bands. They've been around for a good long while too. But you know, he was bold enough to mention to me when he told me that he wanted a banjo, and I said, yeah, I'll put you on the list. And he said, okay, well, whenever you start to making it, he said, Cliff, I want you to make it any way you want. He said, whatever you want to do, just do it. So that's what I did here. I think he's kind of inspired me to get a little bit creative. I wouldn't make this normally for somebody or for somebody I didn't know or whatever. But since he told me to get creative on it, I went ahead and did. And so I knew the first thing I wanted to do was make the hoop octagonal like this. And a lot of these, and the reason being is just sort of as a tip of the hat to my Kentucky musical lineage that I've inherited. According to George Gibson, who's a very knowledgeable researcher and collector of these instruments, he says that these octagonal ones are mostly out of Kentucky. As far as he can tell, they represent some of the earliest mountain banjos. I would define a mountain banjo as any banjo that's got a wooden body with a smaller head inset into it. It's what I think of as a mountain banjo. There's people who will disagree with that definition, but that's mine. And I think George would agree with that. So these represent, according to Mr. Gibson, the earliest mountain banjos that he can find. And they mostly come out of Kentucky. There's a few out of Ohio, but as you know, Ohio borders Kentucky, and tons of Kentuckians historically have always been migrating west into Ohio. So there's even there's a couple famous examples on the Antiques Roadshow. There's one of these that's from the early 1900s that is not built like this. This is more of the standard, like Watauga County style mountain banjo that I know how to make, where it's 3 boards stacked on top of each other. So most of the early ones are not made like this. They're more of like a box. It's like a cabinetry style kind of box that's pieced together with 8 walls or 6 walls. And then the top, they'll either, they have a board on top, or the whole top is a head tacked on. So one of the more famous examples of this was on Antiques Roadshow, and it was an octagonal Kentucky provenance banjo. And it had lots of inlay all over it, diamond inlay, and what looked like walnut, like checkered pistol grip inserts that are tacked on the side and stuff for decoration. That's a really cool banjo. You should look that up. Another one that I really like, I found on the internet, is a picture of a U.S. Civil War soldier. Clearly, it's a Civil War period photograph of a soldier, and he's got an octagonal hoop banjo that's a tack head with the whole hide is over the surface of the top tacked on. And I don't know the information behind that photograph, but I know from spending most of my earlier years as a avid historical Civil War history researcher, the soldier, his uniform and stuff, he is probably a Western theater U.S. soldier, and he could very easily be from Kentucky or Ohio. And in fact, I would bet money that he is an Ohio or Kentucky infantryman or soldier. I don't know what branch he would have been in, but that's cool. I can share that photograph with you guys if you want. That's a cool photo that I think kind of represents an even earlier version of these octagonal banjos. The reason I went with the heart cut out in the back is also sort of a Kentucky thing. Well, there's a couple reasons I went with the heart, but one of them is personal reasons. The guy I'm making it for, his nickname is the Lover Cat, or Love Cat, something like that. And I guess he was real killer with the ladies, And So I wanted to put this heart, I thought, okay, I want to put a heart on this guy's banjo. But the other cool thing that ties in neat with the octagonal shape is hearts are super common all over, you know, Western culture, but especially in Kentucky. All the Kentucky dulcimers, they often have a heart cut out for the sound hole, and a lot of these Kentucky banjos have a heart. These octagonal banjos, they have heart motifs incorporated into the design. So I wanted to cut this crazy heart sound hole in the back. So for a couple of reasons, I think it's pretty neat, came out neat. Robin actually drew this out for me because I just had a circle cut out here. And Robin was like, oh, aren't you going to put a heart on it for the sound hole like we discussed? And I thought, oh, I don't think I'm going to do it. You know, I've already cut the circle. And she took a pencil and traced out this heart, and it looked good, so I cut the heart out that she drew for me. The other one of these nice tuning pegs that she made for me. Let's see if you guys can, I don't know if it'll pick up. I'm hoping it will. But she made these tuning pegs. They're pretty nice. And the tuning pegs on this banjo, guys, are a piece of old black cherry that is a submerged lumber. So really old black cherry tree that these came out of that was submerged under a river for a long time. And that wood was given to me as a gift by a friend years ago. I have lots of it. So I use a lot of that old submerged lumber cherry. The neck is locally cut and milled black walnut, Georgia black walnut neck. Okay. The top is Georgia red oak, local red oak from Georgia. And the back and middle boards I made out of poplar. I'm experimenting. This poplar is also from Georgia too. Regular old tulip poplar, I guess. And I'm experimenting with that. Rather than making all three boards out of red oak, I think I can make the banjo will be significantly lighter if I try to incorporate this light poplar. So the middle and the back boards are poplar. I'm making the head. It's going to have a big whopper of a head in it. And this is about as big as I could make it on this banjo. That's trying to make it light too. And I'm thinking as long as the top is, you know, red oak is the superior sounding wood for these banjos, I think. And so I think if I keep the top red oak, it'll still sound really good. But since this back and middle are poplar, I think it'll still sound good, but it'll be a lot lighter. In the past, I've done them either all poplar or all red oak. And the poplar, I admit, it doesn't sound quite as nice as the red oak. So this is the first one I've made that's a mixture of red oak and poplar together. So we'll see how that goes. I think it'll work. I think it'll still sound great, and it'll be a lot lighter. The other thing you can see in this banjo, I do put neck angle on my banjos. I've had people tell me that, oh, that's not authentic or whatever. They didn't do neck angle back in the day, but, well, you know, it's authentic to me for my banjo tradition. I was taught years ago by a great luthier named Jack Dillon, who taught me a lot of stuff in his shop as he was repairing my instruments. He taught me about the back angle on these necks. And so I put neck angle in these mountain banjos. I don't know of any other mountain banjo maker who puts neck angles in his or her banjos. So if there's anybody out there doing that, please correct me. But I think I may be the only artist who's putting neck angle on these mountain banjos right now. Let's see, another feature that I always do is inside here, these are wood screws, okay, holding the top and the middle board together. I always cap the screws on the front of my banjo with a little piece of, this is a mixture, most of this is red oak, but some of it is hickory. I always cap these with hardwood because I think it looks nicer, and I have a theory that it probably sounds better too if you have a nice flush wooden surface. And I don't like to see wood screws on the front of my banjos. I don't like it. On the back, however, I never cap the screws on the back because I want the owner to be able to replace the hide easily someday. So the back plate, there's no glue on the back plate, and the screws are never capped. And for this guy, I went with the slightly more tacky, raised up screws for this, just because I think that would be neat. I haven't done these before. I like these. let's see. Yeah, the other thing is, I mean, you can insert, you know, I had enough neck on this one. There was a big block of wood to where I could have inserted the 5th string tuning peg vertically, but instead I chose to do it horizontally. You know, and the way that I do it, you can see here, guys, that maybe you can see. You can see that I have to drill all the way through, and then I plug it, because the reamer that I use is long. I don't have a short reamer. So for me to be able to fit this peg in there, I have to drill all the way through the neck. Then I taper the hole with my reamer, and once I get everything right, I go ahead and cap that hole. So I plugged it with a piece of that nice cherry there. I don't mind the way that looks. Yeah, guys, this is it. This is going to be number 14, I think, going up to a New York City jug band artist who I deeply admire and respect. He's a member of the Brotherhood of the Jug Band Blues. He's one of the big shot members of that big shot band, so check them out, guys. Okay, thanks for looking.